Hey everyone, it might be chilly outside, but things are heating up at City Hall. That's pretty good. Hi, I'm Corey Rennie. I'm the unemployable counselor. We were fortunate enough to be able to take an hour of the mayor's time this morning. We sat down for a quick interview about his first 100 days in office, the biggest challenges he felt coming in, what he did on day one, where he sees us going for the next 100 days and beyond, and all that good stuff about what's going on in the city right now with some conflict, some controversy, and all kinds of goodness to watch. So, why don't you sit back, relax, subscribe to the Unemployable Counselor, and watch the interview in its entirety with the Mayor of Prince Albert, Bill Powalinsky. Hi everyone, I'm Corey Rennie, the Unemployable Counselor here in Prince Albert with the very employable Mayor Bill Powalinsky. How are you doing, Bill?
Very well, thank you, Corey.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
No, we're happy you took time out of your schedule to come and meet with us today to discuss your first 100 days in office, man. That's got to be exciting, hey?
Yeah.
Did it go by quick?
Oh boy, it's gone by very, very quickly. And when I say the first 100 days, it's sort of like the number of Monday to Friday days, and of course the job doesn't end on Friday. But it's been 4 months, and it's been a really invigorating experience.
Right on. So coming into it, you ran you ran through a tough election. You had some very positive results out of that election. People backed your plan. Now you're in it. You got the role. So you come in on day one. What was the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing we did was to really that was our inaugural meeting where we were invested. So that was the first thing, was to get council all lined up, signed up, and then we had our first council meeting immediately following that, and then things started to roll.
It seems like for an outsider looking in, it almost feels like longer than 100 days. It's like, holy smokes, because you had, the emerging part of once I learn how to speak English here, the emergency response meetings for like the housing issues, right? We've had all those sorts of things. I know the Riverbank Corporation did an announcement earlier this week, but we'll get to that. The yards, I was up there when you did kind of like the State of Prince Albert address, where you really laid out the outline your vision for the next years and on for Prince Albert and stuff. Now, a lot of people didn't see that. Would you mind kind of touching base on some of the highlights that you see going forward for Prince Albert from your first 100 days?
Okay, well, of course, the first thing we spent almost countless hours on strategic planning and budget, and every department presented their analysis, and they presented their part of the budget. We had lots of discussion on council, and that was we had meetings, and previous councillors said they'd never gone through such a whirlwind before. But the reason was that the city election and the provincial election occurred simultaneously. And in this year, of course, campaigns started in September. Normally in September, the budget would be finalized, and we'd have a decision November, December in an ideal world. So that really put us behind big time. So we were scrambling to deal with that, and that was the first issue. The second issue was after we approved the budget, and it certainly supporting the police force and working on the homelessness initiative. And then the third really great thing was to continue to work on fundraising for the Viard, the aquatic center and the rinks, and then really looking at the phase 2, which is the development of the cultural event center. So I think on day 2 of my office, I went down to Saskatchewan to meet with the team who has been assembled to lobby for us and arrange funding with the federal government, as well as I met with the director of Sask Housing to talk about how we move the homeless or unhoused situation forward.
Wow, that is a lot. Okay? Like you come in, it's a new change after a decade plus. comment it's a different change, and man, like it just seems like it was like boom, 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 kind of lined up to go through there. Was it the homeless stuff, the unhousing issue?
Mhm.
Was that so far? Is that the most like prickly problem, if you want to say? Like, do you find is that the most complex and difficult issue to kind of get everyone on board with?
Well, it's a sensitive issue, Corey. And I mean, first of all, everybody, almost everybody in the city agrees that the location where the homeless shelter is currently was a temporary shelter that was, the agreement was renewed year after year after
Okay.
year. So last year in April, um, between social services and the city, it was identified that we needed to lock down a location. So that kind of, and then of course the election happened. Um, I met with the administration team. The first, I guess, the first official meeting of council. I put forward the motion that we engage in community consultation, and administration would bring a report back after the consultations to give council information on how to proceed with, determining a location past that point.
Okay.
The next thing that happened in the process was administration looked at, they collated the results of 4 consultations, 500 participants, and said,
Wow.
gosh, there's a direction and tendency with the information that we need to kind of narrow down. So they did a survey, and the survey received 1,600 responses. So much to the staff credit, they distilled everything.
Yeah.
So they took the criteria. The consultations weren't directed at let's debate a location. The first set of consultations was designed to get the community to talk about if we had a shelter, and we will have a shelter, what is it that we want that shelter to look like? And that was very valuable information. The reason we stayed away from debating about location was because anytime location has come up, it's been a very controversial, hot topic.
Yeah.
So the end result was that all the criteria were evaluated, and people were invited during the consultations to identify a location that they thought might be considered. So we had several locations that were identified. We took the criteria, and I shouldn't say we, administration took the criteria, community planning and development, and they spread the locations across the top of the page. And then they did a very simple process of, check the boxes, and which, ranked on a scale of 1 to 3, and which locations came up to the top. And, frankly, at the point that it was prepared and presented to council, council said, well, we need more information. So that was sent back, and there were, a series of information sessions. Not a series, there were a couple of meetings where council obtained more information. And the recommendation from management, I'm sorry, I'm taking a long way to get around to this.
That's okay.
But we were anticipating that we would hold another public consultation with a view in mind that we would invite people from the public, and specifically, from those 4 locations, to say, okay, folks, shelter is imminent. It's a foregone conclusion, but we want to take a deep dive into if this lands in your area, how do we make it work? Again, the debate was, well, no, we want to have consultation on the location. And again, consultations are to move us forward. It was my view that if we did that, we'd be moving backward and reopening, a discussion that will never resolve. As one of my counselors put it, they're not going to throw a parade for us. when we when we say this is the location. So
Well, that's what makes that tough, right? Because regardless of which way, because it was, regardless which way you guys go, there's always going to be critics saying that's not the right way to go, especially with an issue with so many opinions and so many feelings wrapped around it, right, in
yeah,
the city. I mean,
yeah,
it must make it hard because you guys are trying to be objectionable. And you mentioned, oh, it took a long time to get that answer. That was a great answer, I thought, because a lot of people want to know, like, okay, what's that process? It's not just a matter of, hey, I got this lot here,
yeah,
we're going to build a house and
yeah,
we're going to have people stay. There's
yeah.
the community aspect, there's the social impact, like there's all those things, right? Especially in residential areas are close to that. Hey?
Yeah. Now, at our last public executive meeting, Councillor Pronto brought forward a motion that was a little different than the consultation that we had initially expected. It was, I think the rationale behind the motion to start to look at a, city property close to the current shelter. The rationale certainly speaks to the fact that the current shelter is, steps away from I shouldn't say steps, but very, very close in proximity to where the current shelter is. And again, now the transparency comes in. We've been challenged on not being transparent. I'll point out that there's no backroom deals. There's no decisions being made outside of executive and council. So Councillor Pronto's motion moved things ahead. That doesn't mean we're negating or taking back the opportunity for residents in that area and anybody else in the city, really, to discuss. Once we do the development permit, we're required to go public, and the public's invited to come in and speak to council. So we haven't short-circuited. Well, we've fast-tracked, but we haven't cut out.
No, the processes are still being followed. We're just
Yeah,
trying to fast track
a
this
little
to
bit
get
of
it
a
done.
faster path. Now we still need to go to council officially. I mean, executive is the body, which includes all of the council, that brings a motion forward to council formally.
Okay.
Okay, so let's face it. Sometimes things change between executive meeting and council meeting. So, and my personal hope is that we still are committed to going ahead.
Gotcha. I know there's lots of moving pieces to stuff like this, hey.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing I noticed too, because like I've lived in PL my life. Like I said, I don't remember when a topic has had not so much of a spotlight on it, but then like there's the four. I went to 3 out of the 4 consultation
Oh,
meetings,
okay, great.
right? Like there's been such a focus everywhere, and I don't remember there being such open dialogue about it before, which I think is good. Like you speak to transparency, I think that speaks to it. Like the public have, in my mind, it seems like there's more of a say now than before. People have an opportunity to get their voice out there, and that's good, especially with an issue like this. I worked for the health region many moons ago, and there was a treatment center they're trying to get set up 20 years ago, and it kept getting bounced from place to place to place, right? And it wasn't set up like this where people had an opportunity. It turned into more of that, no, we're going to fight about where you're going to build this, as opposed to whether or not there's a fit for it in the community, right? It jumped right to the defensive, and you can't win. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, like, that must be difficult from like your perspective or city council's perspective, because like you said, not everyone's going to throw a parade when this thing is done, right? That's very true words from the council there. So like, does that impact the city council, or if an agreement like this, because it's a 5-3 split, so like going forward, does that make things more difficult, or is it just that a compromise or some sort of, like you said, everything's been public, so how does that match? How do you see that working out?
Well, we're a democracy, and when I campaigned, I said that people's voices are important and they need to be heard. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, pardon me, that when somebody talks about a concern, it's good to raise it, put it on the table. Council and administration need to distill the information. At the end of the day, we need to make a decision that's best for the city. Now, some people will argue that homeless shelter isn't best for the city. One location here or there isn't best for the city. That puts councillors in a really tough spot because they represent a ward, and the difficult dilemma is, typically ward representation is issues around snow removal, potholes, pavement. Um,
The
you
kind of
know,
stuff they're more likely to encounter, hey, during
yeah,
the day, like the nuisances we
yeah.
would view it as.
So when we elevate, um, a project or an issue, it's now a toss-up for the
Yeah,
councillor. And my personal belief is that, as a council or as an executive, we move ahead. The first time the motion that I had made was fulfilled by the administration report, that kind of got derailed. I did a media release saying, you know what, um, council needs more time. I respect that and I appreciate
yeah,
that, and we will go forward.
yeah,
So that's talking about teamwork.
yeah,
So when we make a decision, the counselor's role is then to hear people's concerns
yeah,
and then bring back to council that maybe we need to look at another process or
yeah,
another step in the journey. So it it's a really tricky balance.
yeah,
And we've got new counselors, and every counselor that I'm working with very committed to the ward. There's no two ways about it. So we will work through this difficult decision. It's contentious, it's controversial, and at the end of the day, we cannot. We've worked with the Y. We've been working with community organizations, been working with the government. We were
yeah.
mandated to be the body that located and approved a location.
Hey,
So we've been mandated by the province to do that.
yeah,
Province has a significant amount of funding for the city.
yeah,
So I certainly want to see us prove that we're committed to social development,
yeah.
and that with social development, we can spark, a very healthy environment for economic development.
Oh, absolutely. And listening to you explain that, like I think too, a lot of it sounds like due diligence. You have a new mayor, you have I don't
For new councils.
four new
Yep.
counselors, right? So and then you're coming in, and the mother of all problems is kind of sitting on the desk, right? But the fact that like you guys involve the public so much, I know some of my subscribers, even those that live in Ontario and other
Hmm. Hmm.
places, they're from PA. So I'll be like, oh man, I don't remember that happened, like
Yeah.
stuff like that, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of positives that can come of it, and plus too, if it's there's nothing wrong with being a city that gets known for taking care of its citizens too, right?
Hmm.
That's a good thing too. Okay, so 100 days, we discussed the big, I guess, the big vegetables in the stew, I guess, I guess so far there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, with the yards, right? You drive past, you see there's businesses, like it's starting to fill up a little bit. There's
Hmm.
construction
Hmm.
there. There's a hotel, liquor store. There's coffee shops, all kinds of stuff there. So now that you're still dealing with this contentious issue with the unhoused,
Hmm.
and you're working on that with it, and it sounds like your counselors, everyone's committed to the task,
Hmm.
and more importantly, supporting and working with the people that put them in office, right? Their wards.
Hmm.
That's pretty good. And no good decision, there has to be some conflicts and some disagreements, right? That's how you
Hmm.
kind of get
Hmm.
to where the gravy of the meal is, so to speak.
Yeah.
So now that we're looking, you're going through this kind of storming phase. As you look at the next 100 days from here, what would you like to see happen, or what, if you can mention, if there's any plans in the works, like
Hmm.
what do you want to see happen with your next 100 days in office?
Well, there's been countless meetings with certain business groups and associations and community-based organizations. So right now, we're looking forward to, and I don't know if it'll happen in the next 100 days, but we are certainly looking to set in place a new strategic plan, and that strategic plan will work, uh, you know, in concert with organizations like emergency services, fire services, police services, community-based organizations, where we want to see the community go as a city council. We also want to, develop the alliances with people who are congruent with those wishes. So it's an exciting and different approach to community development, just the same as our approach to community consultation was a little different. The thing that we learned from the consultation is we were challenged at the first meeting in our process. And by a man that I respect immensely. And so we had a quick meeting, say, okay, we need to pivot. And we pivoted quickly. I'm hoping that the strategic plan is laid out in a way that allows us some sideways motion, some flexibility. But what's really, really key is that we work to support the vision statement, the mission statement, and the values that are before council. So another exciting thing on the threshold will be the grand opening of the new aquatic and ice surface. And we're also examining, more effective ways to communicate with the community about what we're doing. The important thing is I sit on I shouldn't say the important thing is me sitting, but the important thing as well is the board of police commissioners.
Okay.
Working together as community representatives and with the province. That we've approved the police budget. We've given them a really good place to start from, and we definitely are looking for the leadership of Chief Nogier to deal with some of the pressing issues in our community. Now that's not really in the control of council, but council has representation on the police board of commissioners. So those are certainly key priorities. And economic development, again, we've been meeting with business associations and groups and looking at ways. We've been challenged by some of the organizations to say, examine your processes, and really every challenge is leading to an opportunity. So we're looking forward to some really good outcomes from those discussions.
Well, that's pretty awesome. It's nice to know the city has you get your fingers in all kinds of pies across the board, right? Because it's a busy thing. One thing I wanted to mention up, it was announced earlier this week about the Riverbank Corporation was kind of doing something to help a year extension, I think is what it was.
The most recent announcement was, let me back it up.
Okay.
During the provincial election, the province wasn't able to really, talk to federal government until the election period was over about funding for an enhanced encampment strategy. So we made some inquiries. Saskatchewan and Regina got big dollars, and members of administration, myself, members of council, raised concerns, and we basically said, why was Prince Albert overlooked? That was heard and responded to. The federal government had slippage from different areas, so they pulled the money, put $500,000 into the announcement that we got in early March, and it was a very welcome announcement, very exciting. The challenge was that the money had to be committed and spent by March 31st.
Wow.
So that required work with the federal government, work with the province, work with the community to say, how do we make that happen? And that was basically a channel through Riverbank, who received the money, and then through an approved process, the money went to the city to enhance the shelter and encampment.
Wow.
Mostly the encampment
initiative. That worked fast then from
early
March to holy smokes.
Yeah, I mean, typically people say government can be slow to respond, and there are processes. And it's true that it's kind of hard to, steer the big ship in
Yeah.
a way quickly. But this was, we had a special council meeting,
Okay.
and it was a decision that was very important to the community, and that went exceedingly well.
Yeah.
And I'm not disrespecting the processes because we, like you said earlier, practice due diligence.
Yeah.
Management committee will review topics, so put them on the executive meeting. The executive will take it to council or ask administration for a report. So that usually means our decision making, could be typically 6 weeks to 8 weeks. So we need to
Yeah.
plan, way out, way out in front. And at the wintertime, we have issues like snow removal, right? So the reason that the city can pivot quickly is because they approve an annual budget. They delegate the authority to spend the budget to the city manager and the department heads. So council doesn't need to make a decision on snow removal. Those things are set way in advance.
Yeah, so it can just happen as you need them. You have to
Yeah,
be prepared for
yeah, and that's a lot of the way that the operations of the city are managed. Um, Again, if it's something that's a high impact, I won't say snow removal isn't high impact, but that's business as usual. But things like the shelter location are definitely things that city council, administration, and the community need to work together on.
Well, absolutely. And I think when I think about politics, like to me, from my experience, it comes down to
Mhm.
management, right? And a lot of times it's like how you manage the services. You get a budget, you have to do for those
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes when then something happens, there's always that outcry. Oh no, this isn't done.
Mhm.
We need it done right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like it's not always that easy. It's like you said, you allot it to try to get the best
Mhm.
response the quickest you can.
Yeah.
But it's still done like months in advance, and you're kind of it's like you're kind of gambling on, well, there might be 8 giant snowfalls this
Mhm.
year. We
Mhm.
gotta be prepared for, because like there's might be coming
There's
next day or
one
two, right?
coming, yeah.
There's one coming, and that's Saskatchewan life, right?
Yeah.
That makes it difficult. But I know a lot of the folks that I've talked to have mentioned that about people forget it's a management piece. It's not just like I said, we're going to build the shelter right here because I have this
Mhm.
spot, or
Mhm.
we're going to do this. There's an actual process that has to go, and
Yeah.
like I said, that's impressive, man. From March to now to get all that in,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I know a lot of the people I've talked to about it already have kind of mentioned, man, we're excited for this because it's we got a lot of people living
Mhm.
like in little places around the city, and
Mhm.
it makes it difficult for everybody involved.
Well, and you're spot on. And really, my personal feeling is that we could have used double the money and deserved double the money. But however, to get money freed up at
Yeah,
year end, and of course, the feds weren't able to negotiate with the province, so
yeah,
they made an arbitrary decision to split the funds between Saskatoon and Regina. And I think now they're aware that we're on the radar.
yeah,
And not only are we the gateway to the north, we're the gateway to the south,
yeah,
but more importantly, in my view, is we are the hub city. Saskatoon's referred to as the hub city,
yeah,
and that could be for the province, but for the north,
yeah,
we are the hub for shopping, education, government
yeah.
services, recreational facilities.
Yeah, it's if it funnels down, it
Yeah,
all comes down to
yeah.
us.
So catchment area,
Yeah,
and therefore, a lot of the thinking that we need to do, and the government needs to do, federal and provincial, certainly on board
yeah,
with the investments they made in the community. If you take a look at the health center
yeah,
or the hospital expansion, that recognizes our hub
yeah,
um, principle. And another hub is the First Nations University,
yeah,
and we're working with First Nations University and First Nations to make that work. Um, Certainly, I think our recreational facilities are going to make us a hub. Right now, we have so many awesome opportunities, things that
yeah,
happening like the Senators
yeah,
Cup.
yeah,
Very, very big.
yeah,
It's probably one of the biggest tournaments in Saskatchewan. So we, as a hub city, and we are a transfer point for rail
yeah.
services. And oh man, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's lots of things people don't even realize
mhm.
that occur here, just because it's not, like you said,
Yeah.
like we're a railway hub, right?
Mhm.
Those sorts of things. And you're right, like all the community, and in my line of work too, like we found everyone filters through. You got to go through PA, and
Mhm.
we're the
Mhm.
third largest city in Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily get that acknowledgement as
Mhm.
being
Mhm.
that big, right?
Yeah. Well, two interesting comments. One was that previous city manager said, "We're the third largest, but we have to think like we're the largest." Another comment from one of my counselors, Councillor Pronto, is people need to understand that we punch above our weight.
Yeah,
We might be a small city, uh, well, smaller in comparison,
yeah,
but the amount of activity and the central location for the north, if that's such a thing, as the central for the north, makes us a heavy hitter
yeah,
in the whole game. Now, you mentioned things happening in the community. I have attended so many events, whether they be an evening
yeah,
or weekend or during business hours, that show the outstanding work of counselors and the city, the citizens. Uh, I was fairly aware, being in the community-based organization sector, how many really good
yeah,
things are being done. However, I'll give a couple examples. I went to Councillor Edwards'
yeah.
ward. They were raising money for an expansion to the community center. That hall was packed.
Nice.
Support, and really, pull that together and organize that on a voluntary basis is outstanding. Um, another event I went to was a feast and round dance by the casino, and again, the response and the turnout was incredible.
Yeah,
The Country North shows that were packed the
yeah.
exhibition, and I really have to point out that the Voices of the North um, was amazing, and part of it is because my daughter sang, was a
There you go, right
performer.
on.
Uh,
She did really good. No, she did really well.
so um, and if you take a look at our fourth consultation in partnership with Pia Grand
Yeah,
Council, um, that was probably one of the most well attended and the most inspirational consultation.
nice. Yeah,
Now, Pia Grand Council, I'll go back. Pia Grand Council, during the community-wide meeting on homelessness, we're talking about
yeah,
community
yeah,
participation, made the motion to move ahead, and really respecting the role that they have, within our community. And I myself, through the city, seconded the motion to indicate our willingness, partnership, and the desire to move ahead in a
yeah.
common way. So we're several First Nations communities are approaching us for developmental opportunities.
Nice.
You know, um, and sometimes there's contentious issues, but we are making good progress, and it really it goes back to centuries ago when the first European settlers came to Canada. They they really relied on the support of the Indigenous people.
Yeah,
And the second thing was there was a respectful trading relationship
yeah,
and a business relationship
yeah,
with First Nations and the Hudson's Bay Company, Northwest Company,
yeah,
and the Europeans, and then the Métis communities evolved. And we know that that whole relationship went sideways,
yeah,
and now we're working on repairing that.
yeah,
And you know um, our intent is to work with Indigenous partners to move ahead.
yeah,
And it's not only about truth and reconciliation. It's about looking forward to the future.
yeah.
And maybe that is part of truth and
But it
reconciliation, but
includes
it's
everybody, right?
yeah, and that's
Yeah,
exactly right. It's a
yeah,
collective
yeah.
benefit.
No, that sounds good. And I mean, like, I find that, like, yeah, like, and I think, it's that viewpoint is, I think a lot of people be glad to hear that, because that's, you gotta have buy-in from everyone, right? Because we're all in
Hmm.
this together.
Yeah.
That's, you know, like we're all looking at the same end goal. We might
Yeah.
disagree how to get there,
Yeah.
but at least we can talk about it and work on it in a respectful way, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of misconceptions out there as well, and a lot of people who are of a certain opinion that things are being approached, you know, inappropriately by different levels of government. However, one other misconception is that First Nations businesses, when they set up an urban reserve, don't pay taxes to the city, um, and that's true. However, the spin to that is that they pay in lieu service agreement amounts.
Oh,
So it's not a direct tax, but it's an amount equivalent.
gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, good to know.
Our community is 46, 48, probably 50% Indigenous ancestry.
Yeah.
And that's why we really need to respect that and move ahead. Um, you know, and again, that's just so I can't stress how important that is. That there's other misconceptions about employment equity.
Yeah.
There's a misconception that employment equity waters down the workforce, and I really resent that comment because equity levels the playing field for new Canadians, people with disability, people of Indigenous ancestry, visible minorities. And it really means that if we're not representing the community, uh, proportionately, we need to kind of take a look. So why are we missing these highly trained, highly skilled individuals? Let's take a look at new Canadians, for example. We've got people out there with PhDs. We've got doctors who are scrambling for employment. I talked to a doctor the other day who's working at Ricky's. Um, and it's there's a human talent there, um, and I would challenge anybody to say that if we had equally qualified candidates, that maybe appropriately we should look at increasing the diversity in our workforce.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
there's talent being missed out there. People with the,
yeah, so we need to take a look. Why are we not?
Yeah.
What are we missing? How are our recruitment efforts? Where's the gap? And anti-discrimination. It's been couched as anti-racism, but I feel it goes further in the community, anti-discrimination, because it's not only discrimination based on race. It's also based on religion. It's based on physical ability, mental ability, and all kinds of physical disabilities. And again, our vision is a community that's innovative, welcoming, diverse, and healthy city of opportunity. And that's the vision, and that's the direction we need to go in. And that speaks to things like inclusion, truth, and reconciliation. And another emerging um, challenge will be, environmental direction, environmental concerns that have been raised. And there was a motion made to investigate approaches to become more energy efficient in 2030. So that's looming. 5 years down the road, we think, oh, we got 5 years, but no, we need to,
goes quick.
we need to talk now.
Yeah.
Taxation is going to be another very contentious issue. This year, we're trying to stabilize where we're going. And what happened, as I explained in the State of the City address, is for several years, we lagged behind in terms of increases compared to other municipalities. My off the top of my head or off the top of my calculator estimate is we're somewhere between 19 to 26%, percent behind. If you looked at a 4 to 5 year increase in taxes, which is palatable, you can gradually work up to a point. We didn't, and now this council has inherited a situation where a lot of the reserves are very low. Cities cut back on as much as they can at the moment, and we'll
Yeah.
continue to look for efficiencies. But the reality is we needed to take an $80 million budget and increase it by $8 million. Now, that's not necessarily going to relate to or mean an increase in mill rate. It may look at certain tax tools, such as levies for critical services. But that's another really big issue on the front of everybody's minds.
Well, 10%, that's a big jump in budget.
Well, there's a big jump in budget, and frankly, the one of the big increases was for police service. But with the concern that citizens have, Corey, with crime in the city, you can't really say that we want more police service and support without saying we'll support you, police service. And
there's a give and take there.
Well, there's certainly, this, I call it an investment. Not an expense. It's an investment in our future. Now, we had a housing, and I'm sorry, I'm just so excited about. We had a housing report that was done by an independent consulting firm, and they identified key issues for housing in our current inventory that's short, and then you can spring forward. Although they said on average we needed to, if we wanted to come up to a standard, we would need to look at an average number of homes per year. And they indicated we're probably 1,000 units, off the beam. However, 3 years, 3.5, maybe 4 years, we're going to have a spike. If we get 500 to 600 people coming to Prince Albert, we're going to be looking at some high-end homes. We're going to be looking at middle-priced homes. We're going to be looking at apartments and condos. So we kind of have to predict the demographic, and we have to anticipate looking at other communities. How does their medical profession kind of impact on the housing? Our inventory right now needs to be, we need to start taking a look at supply of land, service land, and we need to take a look at how we're going to arrive at meeting that inventory. And we're having really good discussions with contracting companies, development companies. So, we're going to position ourselves really, really well. And the good news with that is as we broaden our tax base, the burden on the current citizens is going to decrease.
It's going to decrease. Well, that's true. It's because we talked about the yards earlier, but right, they're building the addition to the hospital. So you figure there's got to be people to come and work there. You got the yards, people are going to have to work there. You got new businesses coming in. You got, like you said, like that. And then that's kind of like, as you talk, you can see how it unfolds, right? You get this in, we get the housing, the new people come in, they buy the housing, and then that's how you strengthen the base, right?
More services in the community, more opportunities for business development, and certainly when you take a look at the attractiveness of the city due to the amenities, and our hub location and the wonderful resources north of here, we really are kind of an overlooked resource. We are the jewel of the province, in my opinion, the jewel in the crown.
I agree with that.
And we're working on everything we can do to enhance, that presence. We are, re-examining our promotional activities and certainly the business development opportunities that we want to promote.
Absolutely. Well, I know that's one thing I found too, is like it's like there's all these pieces kind of, it's like bobbing for apples. Like they're all just kind of floating in the water. They're all there. They're just, it's just a matter of getting them to connect in a way that's going to kind of work for everyone. But it sounds like that the leadership now with city council, you're looking at that management piece. Kate, we're going to do our due diligence. We'll figure this out, and then we go to the next thing. It's like one domino knocks over the other as you go. Instead of just like, no, we're going to do this because this is what people are saying. There's a thought process and a methodology that has to match that. Right?
Well, and I'll comment on two things. Using the analogy of bobbing for apples, we want to bob, but we want to come up with all the apples, at one shot,
Yeah, exactly.
instead of
Fair
one
enough,
apple at a time.
yeah.
The other thing we talk about management, what a lot of people probably don't know, but council is like a board of governors or a board of directors, and they hire an employee typically to manage. In our structure, we're really unique, maybe not to the city structure, but we have 3 employees
Okay.
that report to council directly: city manager, city solicitor, and the city clerk.
Okay.
And those folks are tasked with carrying out. The council sets the budget, and then through strategic planning, saying this is the direction we want you to move in. So there's no question that administration is going to be tasked with moving ahead on economic development, housing development, social development, and we're going to um, ask administration to look at the values of the city, which the one that's very key is innovation, because we have to be innovative. We've got to learn to pivot, because things that we've done in the past, if they're not getting results, we need to move in a different direction, but forward.
Yeah.
And when you take a look at diversity, that means that the administration is going to be tasked with, looking at how we support, accommodate, develop, our diverse population. And one of the key things is welcoming, and that means we work with our community partners to be inclusive. But welcoming also includes initiatives to develop things like housing, business, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. That leads to, from a business sense, what incentivization do we have for business coming to town? What incentivization do we have for housing development? And welcoming also means tourist trade.
Yeah.
And welcoming also means services that can be provided for people.
Yeah.
And welcoming means that we get people to stop in PA because they appreciate our culture of service, and we have things that attract them. Now I'm kind of angling in a long-winded way. I'm sorry. I'm so excited about the interview. The downtown revitalization, Riverbank development. We need absolutely to replace aging infrastructure that's older than me by about 30 years, and we don't have a choice. We're going to have to look at some priorities that maybe we'll have to put aside to take care of that. So if you're going to dig up the Central Avenue, when you put it back together, look at the results of the excellent community development that John Gunther and Craig Gittinger worked on with the community. Series of amazing consultations, developed 4 plans, went to the public for votes on their preference. And at the end of the day, there was a strong number 1 proposal. Now, people reviewing it have said, well, maybe this might not work. And we'll take a look at those comments and say, okay, here's our workaround, or we might shift. But however, the point I'm making is that when we dig it up, put it back together, we should be moving towards that vision and the plan, because to go back and then redo stuff, it's going to cost more. Like widening sidewalks, much more cost-effective and efficient to do that when you're putting it back together, and then to come along later and say, okay, now we're going to dig up and remove stuff and so on and so forth.
Exactly. And I like the idea of it's like long-term planning. So short-term, it's like, I'm a big believer of, if we can fix it today, let's just try to fix it, today the best we can. So it's not a matter of, like you said, they paved the road, but the pipes underneath are like 110 years old. You got to replace those, and you're digging up the road that's maybe only might be 2 years old, or those sorts of things. So no, I understand. It'd be a lot of like those kind of almost like chess pieces moving around, where it's like, it might be a hit now, but then next year we don't have to worry about these decrease costs and they can go towards something else, right? That kind
Yeah.
of planning.
Yeah, it's pulling resources and outcomes
Yeah.
together in a way that works efficiently and effectively.
Yeah.
And you're right. We need to not only look at a 3, 4, or 5 year plan, but we need, in my view, we need to go out much farther.
Yeah.
Port Dover, a little place in Ontario, 7,000 population more or less. When the bike rally comes, the population is now
Jumps, yeah.
100,000. But Port Dover has said we're a retirement community and we're a tourist economy, and we make some of the best fish and chips in Canada with ocean perch.
Yeah.
And where do we see ourselves in 20 years?
Yeah.
Take a look at the demographics. If you take a look at the demographics, and they came
Yeah.
up with a 25-year plan, who knows? I mean, but they'll
Yeah.
keep reviewing it.
Yeah.
If you want to take a look at the longer-term demographics in PA, we have a very fast section of the community, that are going with youth.
Yeah.
A very big bubble of youth coming through. Province needs to take a look at that. The city needs to look at parks and playgrounds. And right now, we are the one city, I believe, that competes for having the most parks and playgrounds. And
Oh, wow.
one of the largest parks with Little Red Park and
Yeah.
the amenities and development.
Yeah.
But I digress. That's already, putting a longer term vision out
Yeah.
there in terms of how we meet that need. The people leaving, like seniors leaving single family residences,
Yeah.
are going to want to move to townhouse or places like of the one that my mother-in-law is living, Points West.
Okay.
So when you take a look at a longer term plan,
Yeah.
those things move through the years
Yeah.
and they create a demand. And then we know that maybe the number of seniors retiring and looking at that accommodation may be less in the sort of the valley of the
Gotcha.
bus
Yeah.
boom echo.
Yeah.
So if you're really on top of your game, you're going to say, well, how do we convert this housing supply now to meet those needs? It's very, very
Yeah.
tricky,
It is. Yeah.
very, very skilled manipulation.
Lots of variables to it. Hey?
Well,
Like,
demographics drive
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
They determine what kind of businesses, what's your average income in the city, what does that mean for retail and restaurants. If you have a lower than average income provincially than the provincial stats, that's going to mean that you're going to take a look at certain supply factors for clothing, food, again, shelter. As our community wealth and average income increases, that'll drive certain businesses to upscale.
Yeah. Yeah.
The vision, and
It's
this
like,
has been borne out for decades. The vision is that cities in the core, we have the heritage, oldest buildings and whatnot, tend to kind of diminish, and development, shopping and whatnot goes to the outward parts of the city, and we've seen that here in PA. We've seen it happen since. I mean, when I took community development back in '72, that was already an identifiable plan. So, or a process. So and the pattern is now for the center core to become revived. Think of Moose Jaw. And we got some beautiful heritage buildings. And what happens is when you reinvigorate, when you do your downtown development, you get boutique shops, little restaurants that are upscale. You get, you become a unique place than the big box stores. And you take a look at Bostian Jewelers, have been a really solid presence. And I think one of the Bison Cafe, Funky Fresh Cafe, just to name a few, and I don't disrespect anybody else.
No, but it's true. Like, you think, like, you go downtown, Fresh Air Experience has been there for
big
quite
anchor,
a while,
So those become the type of development that spurs the downtown development, and as the center it's redeveloped, more of that business comes, and that's going to increase people who want to stop in PA. And years ago, Central Avenue was very much like that. I remember, you know, there were a lot of discount stores. There was Frank's Cigar Shop, really unique. Eagle Stationery. You know,
There was
we had
the Tobacco Square was done. The Mills Brothers, like
yeah,
yeah, there was a lot of,
yeah,
and it's funny because like I always thought that Central had the potential to be almost like Prince Albert's Broadway. We
yes,
have this kind
you're
of,
spot on.
you know, because I know a friend of mine, Kylie, she runs the Green Soup Emporium,
Hmm.
and I'm also part of the historical society, so going around and looking at the buildings, and I was in her shop, and she had a thing
Yeah,
where it was like going back to 1905, the people who owned
yeah,
it,
yeah.
like just, you know, I think for that aspect, there's a lot to be promoted downtown.
Hmm.
And especially old businesses and like
Hmm.
businesses and old
Hmm.
like Ted Matheson's, right? Like that's coming up on
Yeah.
100 years.
Well, that's a
You
third
know,
generation
yeah,
business, which is outstanding. Um, and you know, you take a look at people like Ron Horn, Fred Matheson,
yeah,
um, who have received legacy awards from the Chamber of Commerce for the stick-to-itiveness and the promotion and the love for the city,
yeah.
you know, and the appreciation for, you know, the heritage of the downtown. And those are the kind of things that, you know, we've talked about in council about how we, you know, like I said, how do we plan
Yeah.
with limited, well, defined resources without, you know, going through tremendous increases in taxation year after year after year. We need to really strategically determine what priorities are going to take precedence. You know, for example, do we slow down the paving program to do the Central Avenue piece? So maybe certain areas in the city won't get the
Yeah.
paving upgrades, but you know, do we redirect that?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the plan, but I'm saying
No, but
that's
it's
an
just like
example.
you gotta look at everything, right?
Yeah.
As it comes in. I tell you, Bill, I could talk to you all day about this stuff.
And you know, I can match you word for word. Yeah.
I believe that. Well, first off, like I know you're busy, and the whole conversation, I really appreciate you kind of putting a light for everyone on what happens kind of behind
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
scenes. The first 100 days, right? It went by pretty quick,
Yep.
you know, and everything you guys got going on your plate. And I will say this: I know from talking to yourself and
Hmm.
talking from different city council members, you know, the real, you know, PA first, like let's
Hmm.
work together
Hmm.
mentality, I think is, it's like you got lightning in a bottle there with those folks. Like everyone just seems
Yeah.
like they're all got the same end goal in mind, and they're
Hmm.
all willing to work to get to that point. I think
Hmm.
as a guy living in the city, right? Like you guys are city councilmen, you're mayors, but you're still citizens too. You have a
We are.
vested
Yep.
interest
Yep.
in what happens here. And I think that gets forgotten about sometimes. But I just want to say it was I'm kind of rambling now, but it was a joy
Hmm.
getting
Hmm.
that sense and getting to hear that from you, Bill. And
Hmm.
wish you all the luck in the next hundreds and hundreds of days of
Yeah.
your reign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you know, I appreciate the opportunity for the chance to chat with you and you know, really talk about the excitement in the city and the development of you know, strong relationships or stronger relationships with the different sectors of the community. We all run for council because we want to make PA you know, a really good place to live,
yeah,
and we definitely look for opportunities and you know, chances to continue to develop. And I mentioned back for the community spirit. You know, I've attended the seniors gala, the Med Gala, the Pike Swimming Club show.
yeah.
I could just go on and on and on with all the invites. And we did a mental health symposium. Not we, I attended, brought greetings from the City for Mental Health Symposium for students at Carleton. Those kind of things really talk about our healthy city of opportunity. And it's through initiatives like that we continue to grow and develop.
Absolutely.
Um, and, you know, the mayor's office is always open for, um, you know, input directions. Um, a lot of the calls do get um, kind of filtered through in terms of would it be quicker and more efficient to direct a call to a department
Yeah.
head. Um, but I've had wonderful engagement with people.
Nice.
And, there's positive things and there's complaints.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's dialogue. Everybody's voice is important and they need to be heard.
Absolutely.
And, maybe not necessarily their wish be granted, but it's every dialogue is meaningful dialogue.
Absolutely. Right. And every voice is heard.
Yes.
Awesome. So we would end this, Bill. Thank you
Okay.
again.
Yeah,
And
thank
hopefully
you.
we can do this again. And
Sure.
and take care. Corey Rennie,
Yeah.
our public counselor here at the Mayor, Bill
Yep.
Powalinsky. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye for now.
Hey, thank you everyone for watching. Want to thank the Mayor, Bill Powalinsky, for his candid interview. Want to thank his staff at City Hall who made us feel welcome and took care of us while we were waiting for him. And I hope everyone out there enjoyed hearing about the Mayor's first 100 days from the Mayor himself. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and most importantly, share. I think the Mayor and City Council are trying to do a lot of good things here, and I think we need to keep that in the public eye. So you guys take care, enjoy the weather, and be safe out there. And thanks again to the Mayor and City Hall.